The heroes of Super Sentai are worldwide symbols of teamwork and justice, but not all of these rangers are a force for good. Throughout Super Sentai's legendary history, we've been introduced to a lot of evil rangers that battle against the heroes and work to serve their own interests.
To the fall of Zordon and the destruction of the Power Rangers!
This video is going to look at the complete timeline of evil rangers throughout history from Super Sentai and Power Rangers, from 1977 through today, including some of the greatest antagonists of all time, and even cloned ranger teams. So sit back and relax, and let's jump right into the complete history of evil rangers. 1977's Jaka featured Dummy Jaka, the first evil Sentai. These were crimers that a monster named Devil Scrap used for the purpose of training within the show. They looked like the real Jaka, but they wore crimer masks under their helmets. They only appeared in one episode and never actually faced off with the real Jaka. In Dingy-Man, a monster named Mimilar created fake Dingy Rangers to be subordinate to the Vader clan. Mimilar looked like a giant ear, and this story was surprisingly dark as he would kill a magician after he refused to serve the Vader clan. He would eventually offer the deceased magician's daughter the same deal before creating the fake Dingy-Man. These rangers were only around briefly, and Mimilar was quickly defeated. Sun Vulcan featured a monster named Tea Kettle Manga who had shape-shifting abilities and transformed into the different members of the team. He also took on the appearance of Hell Saturn. The Sun Vulcan Robo quickly defeated the monster within one episode. '1982's Goggle 5 featured the Death Dark 5, a team of fake rangers that are actually Madara men in disguise. They were voiced by the actors who played their respective ranger counterparts. Their suits were similar but featured solid colored scarves instead of white ones. After being defeated, they would revert back to their original Madara men forms, and they only appeared in a single episode. In Bioman, a team of mecha clones took on the appearance of Bioman in order to initiate a kidnapping of Shuichi and Miki, but this would ultimately result in them being destroyed by Miki. Their appearance on the show was brief, but they're worth mentioning nonetheless. Next is an evil team who made a brief but memorable appearance on Jetman. This was Shadow Jetman. Created by a monster named Light Armadillo, the Shadow Jetmen represented opposite versions of 4 of the Jetmen, due to Guy or Black Condor being absent at the time of the cloning. As the Shadow Jetmen gained strength, it would simultaneously weaken the real Jetman. This was due to Maria creating a field of light. After Maria's light field is disabled, Jetman was able to defeat Light Armadillo and rid the world of the Shadow Jetman forever. Their suits are black, but also feature the original Ranger's colors on their helmets and chest. Although this was a temporary Dark Ranger team, their premise and design were something to take notice of. In Zyuranger, a monster named Dora Mirage created a team of fake rangers to serve the will of Bandora. They would try to frame the Zyurangers before Dora Mirage was ultimately defeated 4 episodes later. This show also had Dragon Ranger, the legendary first official 6th Ranger within the franchise, and brother to Geki. As a child, Burai was a member of the Yamato tribe and his father was the Black Knight. The king and queen of the tribe decided to take Geki as their own son against the will of the Black Knight, the boy's father. The Black Knight died while trying to prevent this from happening, with Burai bearing witness. He vowed revenge against the king and trained tirelessly to accomplish his goal. After the Zyurangers entered a state of suspended animation, Burai did the same so that he could one day exact his revenge against his brother Geki, who he viewed as loyal to the king. Burai was one of the strongest martial artists in the history of Sentai, with an epic and heartbreaking story, and he was easily the best thing about Zyuranger. His suit is one of my favorites, with a green color scheme featuring a golden shield on his chest and a sleek helmet design. He also had awesome equipment like Devil's Sword Helfriede and Jusoken, plus Dragon Caesar, his legendary mecha. Burai was played by Shiro Izumi, who also played Change Pegasus and Changeman. He also had a small role in Kaku Ranger and O Ranger. Burai is easily one of the most legendary rangers in the history of Sentai, one of my favorites, and no video about evil rangers would be complete without him.
Behold my Rangers, the Dark Rangers!
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers featured 3 different fake teams during its run. One of these fake teams was created by a monster named Primator. We also had the Mutant Rangers led by Commander Crayfish, then we had the Dark Rangers, students at Angel Grove High School that were turned by Lord Zed. They would eventually be freed from their corruption and make nice with the real Rangers.
How can I serve my Empress?
I definitely can't make a list of evil rangers without Tommy, the man himself that had a multi-episode story arc called Green with Evil. He was a new student at Angel Grove High School, presented as a potential love interest for Kimberly, but was put under a spell by Rita that made him absolutely ruthless in his mission to destroy the Rangers.
To the fall of the Power Rangers! I'll destroy you, one and all.
Jason David Frank was the man, and Tommy would of course go on to become good and wear the suit of several other Rangers, staking his claim as the most legendary Ranger in the history of Power Rangers. Featured on Die Ranger, the Copy Die Rangers were another doppelganger ranger team with a short but memorable story. They were created by Copy Empress to be exact copies of the Die Rangers. They were nearly equal to the Die Rangers in terms of power and fighting ability, making them an imposing force before ultimately being defeated when Copy Empress's copy machine was destroyed. Our next evil Sentai is a female team of ninjas called the Flowery Kunoichi team, from Kaku Ranger. Within the series, Young Noble Jr. created this group from cats, and as such they're extremely quick and agile, making them absolutely deadly. They have the ability to shapeshift and use magical abilities, making their presence a pervasive threat for the Kaku Rangers to have to overcome. These female warriors had unique suit designs with helmets reminiscent of a cat, and their colors were different than that of the Kaku Rangers, making them the first evil Sentai to fit that description. They were also the first all-female Sentai team. 2 of the members were played by actresses that appeared in other Sentai series, with Keiko Hayase playing 5 Yellow in 5-Man, and Chi Tanabe acquiring the powers of Go Pink temporarily in Go-Go 5. These ladies were deadly, unique, and historic in terms of firsts. Next we're going to look at one of my favorites, Neji Ranger, an evil and maniacal ranger team featured in Mega Ranger. Created by Dr. Hinelar, these vicious cyborgs existed for the sole purpose of destroying the Mega Rangers. They were initially born from strengthening suits before Dr. Hinelar fed them energy via Javius, strengthening them and giving them autonomy. They were capable of shapeshifting, being responsible for framing the Mega Rangers due to imitating them. They would ultimately attack their respective counterparts before they were destroyed by the Mega Rangers, partially because of the Neji Rangers' pure lack of teamwork and patience. The Neji Rangers were twisted and evil, and they featured unique ranger suits with a sinister looking helmet design and a jet black color scheme. Their suits were original designs that weren't based on the suits of their heroic counterparts. Neji Ranger was a dark and maniacal Sentai team that was above all things evil.
They can't be.
But we are Rangers!
And we're here for one reason, and one reason only.
To destroy you.
When Mega Ranger was adapted into Power Rangers in space, Neji Ranger would be renamed to the Psycho Rangers, a name that I like quite a bit. They were created by Astronema, and they had just as much hatred and psychopathy as their Japanese counterparts.
What's the matter, Rangers? You look like you've just seen a ghost.
In Power Rangers Turbo, Shadow Chromite created the Shadow Rangers, similar in look to the Turbo Rangers but with gray helmets. They were voiced by their Ranger counterparts and only lasted one episode. It turned out that they were made of light, and to defeat them they just had to be fought in the darkness. Time Ranger featured an evil team called Copy Time Ranger that possessed vastly superior strength compared to their counterparts, but they existed within Master Ginbu's pocket dimension, and once it was destroyed, these fake Rangers died with it. This show also featured Captain Yuya Asami, the original Time Red and Time Fire. Captain Yuya observed multiple timelines resulting in his death due to V-Rex. Because of this, he was responsible for the V-Rex disappearance for the purpose of someone else from the past becoming Time Red and preserving Yuya's life. Yuya was cold and selfish, working to save his own life while at the same time caring little for innocent people in harm's way. He would later become fatally wounded and die, making all of his effort to change the future a complete waste. Yuya was played by Masaru Nagai, who also played Tatsuya or Time Red from the past, as well as appearing in Yu Soldier. Captain Yuya had a creative premise based around time manipulation, and he did a lot to add to the gritty tone of Time Ranger.
Look out!
Power Rangers Time Force featured evil Rangers as well, with a similar premise to that of the Copy Time Rangers. Gal Ranger had two separate imitation teams, the first of which was created by Copy Org, who made copies of the Rangers, and these guys were appropriately called the Copy Rangers. They looked the same, but they had horns on their helmets. The Shade Rangers appeared in Gal Ranger when Doro Doro created evil clones of the team. The premise was that if the Gal Rangers destroyed them, it would result in their own death, creating an interesting predicament for the protagonists. I also really like how the black suits had high contrast colored sections on their helmets.
Meet your dark side, the Shadow Rangers.
Shadow Rangers?
Power Rangers Wild Force featured the Shadow Rangers, a team of evil imitation Rangers created by a monster named Onikage, and they were based on the Shade Rangers from Gal Ranger. They were defeated along with Onikage in one episode.
Guys, look!
Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue had an original evil Ranger team that was created just for this show. They were made to be replacements for the real Rangers, but after becoming damaged, they would rage out and be indiscriminate in who they attacked. They had a single horn on their helmet along with black gloves, and they were defeated in a single episode.
Who are you?
I'm your worst nightmare.
Lightspeed Rescue also featured the Titanium Ranger. Ryan was originally hostile to the team due to Diabolico's brainwashing, but he eventually joined as the 6th Ranger. He was also completely unique to Lightspeed Rescue and had no counterpart within Super Sentai. Hurricaneer also had a team of fake Rangers created by Modogi, but they only lasted one episode. Also within the show, we got the Go Raijers, an intimidating duo that would eventually become good. These brothers, named Iko and Ishu Kasami, were brought up to be cold and heartless warriors from a young age. Their father demanded perfection from them and implemented training techniques that were harsh and borderline abusive. When their father died, the brothers would align themselves with Jakanja, serving as a primary antagonistic force for the first half of the series. Due to their cold nature and fighting skills, they were truly a force to be reckoned with. The Go Raijers wore stylish red and blue ninja outfits accented by gold trim. These suits were similar to the Hurricaneers, but with a slightly more elaborate design. It's even been speculated that they may have been the inspiration for Kamen Rider Kabuto and Gatak due to their similar beetle theme aesthetics. Iko was played by Yujiro Shirakawa, and Ishu was played by Nobuo Kyo, who also appeared in Kamen Rider Kiva, Amazons, and Shinobi.
Lucky for you, we're ready to go. All the pieces are in place.
Let the games begin.
Excellent!
Power Rangers Ninja Storm would of course feature the Thunder Rangers. They were also brothers, Blake and Hunter Bradley to be exact, with a similar premise to the Go Rangers, and these motocross-loving brothers also became good eventually. Next up is the man himself, Mikoto Nakadai, better known as Abare Killer, from Aba Ranger. Mikoto was a surgeon who was good at everything he tried to do, and this caused him to become bored. Because of this, he decides to transform and fight just for the entertainment value of a challenge. Throughout his introductory story arc, he shamelessly displays his narcissistic and sociopathic personality, causing full-on conflict with the Aba Rangers, where Aba Red would say, which means you aren't human, due to his unfeeling attitude towards the plight of others. He became leader of the Evolians, but would eventually turn against them and fight alongside the Aba Rangers. Abare Killer was one of the strongest 6th Rangers ever in terms of skill, intellect, and pure power, and he of course looked cool as hell. This was easily the most aggressive looking suit design in Sentai history. The black and white monochromatic color scheme, with a slight bit of red serving as an accent on his helmet, is near perfection. Mikoto was played by Kotaro Tanaka, and as I've said before, this ranger fits the name Abare Killer perfectly, and he looks like he would just rip your head off for fun. He's absolutely legendary.
I've only just started. You want some more?
Power Rangers Dino Thunder featured Trent, the White Dino Ranger who was the main antagonist of the White Thunder 3-part story arc, and after turning good, he was cloned to create a new evil version who lasted 8 episodes before being defeated. Trent was played by Jeff Parazzo. Magi Ranger had the evil Magi Rangers, a short-lived group of Ranger clones created by Hades' god Toad that were quickly defeated. This show also of course featured Wolzard. As the Heavenly Saint's noble and honorable master warrior, Blego took on the human form of Isamu Ozu, who fathered the Magi Rangers. In a battle against Infertia, he became critically wounded, resulting in Inma focusing darkness directly into his wound. This resulted in him becoming Wolzard, a dark warrior helplessly commanded by Inma. He would seemingly unalive his wife and battle against the Magi Rangers. Over time, Wolzard would regain his old memories and slowly show signs of his true self. He went from battling against the Magi Rangers to eventually aligning with them in a dark and intense story. His dark form is a purple and gold suit of armor that really stood out amongst the other suit designs on Magi Ranger. He also returned later in the series as Wolzard Fire, a heroic red form that he used alongside the Magi Rangers. Isamu was played by Tsutomu Isobe, who also appeared in Kamen Rider Kuga. Wolzard was one of the most highly skilled and dangerous Sentai villains of all time.
It's me!
And me! What?
Power Rangers Mystic Force featured the evil Mystic Rangers, based on the evil Magi Rangers, and just like in Japan, they lasted for only 1 episode. Mystic Force also featured Korag, based on Wolzard. Both Korag and Wolzard were a huge part of their respective shows.
Let's do this.
Next up is the A-Squad Rangers from Power Rangers SPD. These were the original SPD Rangers before embarking on a mission that would result in them missing with unknown whereabouts. They would be replaced by the official team of the show, and we would find out that the A-Squad Rangers betrayed SPD and became loyal to Emperor Groom.
You'll be coming with us, Commander Kruger. You have an appointment with Emperor Grunt.
This was actually the first team with a female Red Ranger, and their helmets were reused designs from Mega Ranger and Power Rangers in Space. These guys were a major part of the show's plot and were unique to Power Rangers, meaning they had no counterparts within Super Sentai. Bulkinger featured the Evil Bulkingers, a short-lived evil Sentai created by Oga.
What the?
Great! Now we have to fight ourselves! Meet your match!
They were also adapted into the Evil Overdrive Rangers in Power Rangers Operation Overdrive. Both teams were defeated quickly, and they looked similar to the real Rangers, but with the addition of black collars on their suits. In 2007, we had the Renjuken Warriors, also known as Leo and Melee from Geki Ranger. As members of the Renjuken Akugata, or the Confrontation Beast Fist Akugata, Ryo and Melee would hone their fighting abilities and force their followers to endure their intense and brutal training methods to master the group's fighting style. Ryo had a dark origin, as his family was unalived, leading to him becoming obsessed with power and becoming as deadly as he possibly can so that he never suffers in the same way again. He uses an aggressive-looking black and gold suit of lion-themed armor, and he was played by Hirofumi Araki. Melee was a fierce tactician who had a deep, unrequited love for Ryo. Eventually, Ryo would turn good, leading to conflict between the two, but Melee would end up saving Ryo, and the two would fall in love and align with the Geki Rangers. Melee has a green chameleon-themed suit, and she was played by Yuka Hirata. The Renjuken Warriors were a deadly, highly trained duo that served their role as antagonists well before coming full circle as allies to the Geki Rangers. Power Rangers Jungle Fury featured an adaptation of the Renjuken Warriors with Jared and Camille, or the Fury Warriors, with a similar premise to their counterparts. Jungle Fury also featured the Spirit Rangers, a corrupted trio created by the Phantom Beasts that would eventually become good when RJ frees them from control. This trio was exclusive to Power Rangers. Shinkenger featured a monster named Narisumashi that had the ability to shapeshift. He took on the appearance of the Shinkengers in a short-lived story arc. Later on, fans were treated to Gedo Shinken Red, a dark and corrupted version of Takeru that I like to call Darth Takeru. Gedo Shinken Red was featured in the Ghost Sager vs. Shinkenger movie, where Takeru became corrupted and came within inches of destroying both teams, before Arata would heroically sacrifice himself to take the brunt of Takeru's attack. Normal Shinken Red is undoubtedly an ass-kicking machine, and with that kind of power and ability serving as a force for evil, it was something truly intimidating. Gedo Shinken Red featured a black robe, black gloves, and a black collar, and since Shinken Red was already such a great-looking ranger, these new details made him a sight to behold. Takeru was played by Tori Matsuzaka, and to see this side of his character was a cool contrast to the stoic and disciplined demeanor of normal Takeru. Gedo Shinken Red was awesome, and there are very few evil rangers with this level of aura. In Gokaiger, a commander named Vanane assumed the form of Luca so he could infiltrate the team, but he was found out due to having dinner with the team and eating broccoli, a food Luca herself would never eat. He then assumed the form of Gokai Silver, but in a classic Who's the Real One trope, he was exposed by not being able to transform into Mega Silver, while Guy, the real Mega Silver, could, and Vanane was ultimately destroyed. Next, we're going to look Enter, the Vaglas general from Go Busters. Although he looks like a normal human, Enter is actually made of pure data and code. Enter used his laptop to upload viruses and create metaloids. He was also known to steal large amounts of Initron. Enter would continue to evolve, with the intention of achieving perfection. He would eventually upgrade to Enter Unite, and later he would transform into a dark version of Red Buster called Dark Buster. He would also transform into Enter Beat Buster. Enter's different unique appearances and multiple ranger forms, along with the fact that he's made of pure data, made him a cool and memorable villain that was unlike the other villains in Sentai. Enter was played by Sho Jinai, and his unique premise made him unforgettable within the franchise. Also worth mentioning is Escape, another Vadglass general who has a somewhat uneasy working relationship with Enter. Although she doesn't have a true ranger form, she does have her evolved form, and I just thought it would be best to mention these two together. Go Busters also briefly featured some imposter rangers created by Filmloid. They were exceptionally weak and offered little challenge to the real rangers.
No way. Oh man, it's like double us.
Very similar to the fake Go Busters, Power Rangers Beast Morphers featured fake Battle Force Rangers and the Cyber Villains, a duo adapted from Enter and Escape. In Beast Morphers, they were avatars of Blaze and Roxy that were used heavily in the show's story, much like their Japanese counterparts. Kyoryuger featured another imitation ranger team created by Debo Yakigante. Made solely for the goal of deception, these fake Kyoryugers had no actual powers and were way weaker than the real rangers, leading to them being quickly defeated.
You can't.
Next was Ferocious Knight D, who became Death Yuger, the main antagonist of Kyoryuger Gaburincho of Music. In the film, D forces a new Judinyu named Tobaspino to bond with him so he could become Death Yuger. D was one of the earliest knights within the ranks of the Deboth army, and his twisted and sadistic persona would result in a terrifying villain for the Kyoryugers to battle against. Death Yuger featured a striking blue color scheme with red sleeves, red accents on his helmet, and golden shoulder armor. D was voiced by Mamoru Miyano, who is also well known for voicing Ultraman Zero in many projects. Death Yuger was a deadly and sadistic force within the world of Kyoryuger.
Fire!
There was also an antagonistic Gold Ranger in Dino Force Brave, a Korean-produced adaptation of Kyoryuger.
Hey, isn't that us?
Whoa, I look pretty sweet.
Power Rangers Dino Charge featured evil Dino Charge Rangers called the Copy Rangers. They were created by Duplicon and were actually Vivix, or the show's foot soldiers. In 2013, we got a dark version of Hurricane Red, who would directly oppose his former teammates. This was Hurricane Dark. Featured in Hurricaneger 10 years after, the Hurricanegers investigate bombings happening throughout the world, when it turns out that Yosuke, or Hurricane Red, is the one responsible. He calls his time with the other Rangers a mistake and takes up the moniker of Hurricane Dark. It was eventually revealed that he was motivated to do the will of Frabijo and Windinu due to the kidnapping of a boy named Tenkai and holding him hostage to force Yosuke to carry out the bombings on their behalf. He was swayed back and would realign with the other Hurricanegers. He featured a dark version of Hurricane Red's suit, but with the addition of a kimono. Hurricane Dark's presence was an interesting mystery and the main driving force of Hurricaneger 10 years after. Next up is the Dark Emperor Zet, who transformed into Zet Rokugo, featured in Tokuger. As the main antagonist of Tokuger, this evil force was ruler of the Shadow Line. He harvested darkness found in the hearts of humans in order to make the conditions of the planet capable of sustaining him upon his arrival. He would eventually gain possession of the Applechanger and transform into Zet Rokugo, before attacking the Tokugers. As Zet Rokugo, he has the same appearance as the normal Tokyu Rokugo, which is orange in color with the signature Tokuger train theme design. Zet was played by Kingo Okuchi, who also appeared in Kamen Rider Phase, as well as Kamen Rider Cross Kamen Rider O's and Double featuring Skull Movie War Core. Zet was an awesome villain, and his ability to transform into Zet Rokugo made him truly memorable. Ninninger had two monsters that could steal the appearance of Rangers in short arcs with Mujina and Yamibiko. We also had Dark Aka-Ninja featured in Ninja vs. Tokuger the movie. Due to there not being an obvious conflict to be had between Ninja and Tokuger, the main writer created Dark Aka-Ninja to be the main antagonist of this project. This fulfilled the versus element in the title. In the film, Dark Dr. Mavro creates several clones to do his bidding, and he tries to fuse them with Takaharu, Igasaki, or Aka-Ninja. But this process fails and Dark Aka-Ninja is born. Dark Aka-Ninja is a soulless, unfeeling husk of a ranger that was deadly and dangerous, requiring both the Ninjas and Tokuger to combine their strength in order to defeat him. His look is similar to the regular Aka-Ninja, but with a black collar, black gloves, and black boots. Ninja tends to get a lot of hate within the community, but Dark Aka-Ninja had a pretty cool premise.
Fortunately, my robot army is already big enough to take over every dimension. March, robots! March!
Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel had Lord Draven's Robo Ranger army. There were hundreds of fake Rangers based on several Rangers from throughout the franchise's history, with the addition of shoulder spikes on their suits. These Rangers had a short story arc and were exclusive to Power Rangers. Next we look at Neo Deca Red and Yellow, from Deca Ranger 10 years after. 10 years after the events of the show, the regular Rangers have gone down different paths, and SPD employed the corrupt Kite Reidlich to oversee operations. He installed Asam Asimov and Mugi Grafton, also known as Neo Deca Red and Yellow respectively. These two pretended to be good, but were secretly doing the corrupt bidding of Kite while serving as replacements for Bon and Jasmine. They would eventually go mask off and battle against the other Deca Rangers. The Neo Deca Rangers wore the SWAT mode suits with no difference from the originals. Neo Deca Red was played by Rakuto Tochihara, and Neo Deca Yellow was played by Mizuho Hata, who was featured in small roles for many Super Sentai series. The Neo Deca Rangers were interlopers that used their positions for personal gain, and they were easy to root against, making them really memorable. Zyuohger featured another fake Ranger team in a short arc that saw Bangre create them from memories of Kuval. Zyuohger also of course had the World, an antagonistic force within the show, who would eventually become the team's 6th Ranger. Misao Mondo was held against his will by Genius, who drained the life from 3 Jumens and imbued it into him. This turned him into the Ranger known as the World, and he would be unleashed upon the Zyuohgers. He can switch between his 3 animal forms or even combine them. Although he would eventually align with the Zyuohgers, the experience he suffered through at the hands of Genius would continue to haunt him, causing intense self-hatred and doubt. His redemption arc was impactful and really served to make him endearing as a character. Upon joining the Zyuohgers, he would call himself Zyuo the World. The World featured a segmented suit design featuring a gold, black, and silver color scheme with his different animal powers represented on his chest. Misao was played by Naoki Kunishima, and the World's redemption made for an interesting story. Q Rangers saw the Endeavor pose as a squad of Rangers while several of the real Ranger counterparts were sealed away. We also had a monster named Micro Suyo Endeavor, spawning a false version of Naga before ultimately being defeated. Kira Major was another season that featured fake Rangers, but more so dark counterparts to the real Rangers in an interesting and creative arc that gave insight into the heroes of Kira Major. Next we have Stacyzer from Zenkaiger. Born as the son of Barashitara, Stacy initially observed the Zenkaigers from a distance, but would confront them directly after acquiring the Girtozinger. This device allowed him to transform or summon previous Sentai teams to do his bidding. Although the Zenkaigers offered resistance, Stacy was able to get the upper hand by summoning previous mechas from the franchise. Stacy had a unique purple and red color scheme, and his helmets and scarf were designed as references to Battle Japan from Battle Fever J. His personal mecha was called Battle Caesar Robo, a reference to Battle Fever Robo. Stacy was played by Ryo Sekoguchi, who previously auditioned for the role of Zen Kaiser. Stacy looked cool, and since Zen Kaiser was a celebration season, his abilities to summon previous teams as well as mechas was perfectly fitting. We also got to see a fake version of Zen Kaiser and 2 Kaiser created by the Copy World, and we also had a character named God who possessed several of the Rangers within the show. Now we look at the evil Rangers from the group Noto. Featured within Dawn Brothers, this group is made up of a species from planet Ideon, and they use the brainwaves of humans as a source of food, treating them as cattle. Among this group were Sonoshi, Sonogo, and Sonoroku, as well as the transformed Noto who would later become good in Sonoi, Sononi, and Sonoza. The characters featured atypical Ranger suit designs that were very different from one another and the Dawn Brothers. These characters provided a huge amount of story within the show, and they played a key role in the final arc. Dawn Brothers also had future Don Modesame. He made a short but memorable appearance that saw him travel back in time from the future to take on his modern day counterpart. King Osier featured Rakyules, also known as Okuwagata Osier. When we're first introduced to Rakyules, he's the cruel and unfeeling ruler of Shugodon, obsessed with his own power and threatened by the presence of his half-brother Gira, who would become Kuwagata Osier. Although he initially appears as a power-hungry ruler, motivated solely by power, over time his motivation would become less clear. His later story arcs would be filled with nuance and misdirection to keep the audience interested. Later he would even align himself with the King Osiers in battle. Rakyules has a similar suit design to Gira's, but it was all silver. He was played by Masato Yano, who appeared in Kamen Rider Agito when he was just a child. Rakyules developed into a complex and nuanced character over time, after initially being portrayed as just a petty and power-hungry king. In Boom Boomger, a monster called Camera Groomer created fake versions of Boon Pink, Black, and Orange, and they of course would battle against the real Rangers. Like typical fake Rangers, they had a really short lifespan, lasting for only one episode before being defeated. Gojuger features a new character named Kuon, general of the No One World Bredon, who transforms into Ring Hunter Garyudo, a unique looking ranger whose suit is black with a red X on the chest. He's played by an actor who goes simply by the name Kurama. I also want to acknowledge all of the parody Sentais that posed and did roll calls, but they were more like monsters than rangers. Some of these teams were really entertaining, but they didn't have ranger suits, so I'm going to consider them an honorable mention. Another honorable mention is Lord Drakon and the other alternate universe rangers, mostly from the Boom Studios comics. Lord Drakon asked the question, what if Tommy never became good? The answer is an immensely powerful ranger with a suit design that's a cross between the Green Ranger and White Ranger designs of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. He's honestly just too cool and too powerful to not mention here. But I want to know who your favorite Evil Ranger is in the comments. I want to give a big shout out to everyone that's joined the community, and if you're part of the 60% that haven't subscribed yet, be sure to morph into a subscriber by hitting the subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it a ton if you smack the out of that like button. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.